All right, we're live.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the general committee meeting to order. Today is February 13th, 2024. And I would like to start with roll call. I am chairman of the general committee, Lee Peterson, also alderman for Ward 2. And we have our co-chairman.
Jim Waters, Alderman Ward 6.
And our other commissioner.
Bob Garza, Alderman Ward 3.
And Jason, I'm going to let you start with introductions. We'll go around the table. We do have a full room tonight, a packed agenda, so we will get to every item as quickly as we can.
We'll make it fast. Jason Gallo, Admin Services Director.
Rachel Collins, Ward 5 Alderman.
Jesse Eckenroth, Chief of Operations.
Mayor Jamie Clearing.
Keith Free, Planning Director.
All right, we'll go around the outside.
Mark Bergdorf, Alderman Ward 1.
Andy Gilley, Parks Director.
Chris Taylor, Observer.
Craig Garden, Observer. Yeah, that's a good one.
Lee Justings, Nextdoor Bioenergy.
Jamie Hartman and Nextdoor Bioenergy.
Hank Ingram, Ingram Barge Company.
Kevin Heath, Repurpose Sustainable Waste Solutions.
Jay Ritterbeck, Community Economic Development Community Planner.
Casey Lamar, Public Information Officer.
Lance Ray, City Attorney.
Terry Goodwin, Alderman Ward 4. Anna Garden, Alderman Ward 5. Leah Garden, Ward 5, constituent.
Scotty Bush, Hendersonville Fire.
Larissa Moore, Observer.
That's it.
Okay, I think that was everybody. Also, if anybody wanted to sign up for citizen comments, I have the sheet in front of me. And have you all had a chance to look at the agenda for tonight?
Yes. All week.
Okay, any additions or changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay, I'd like to move that we accept the agenda as written.
So moved.
I have made a motion, and Mr. Waters has seconded that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. And have you had a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, I moved that we approved the minutes from the January 9th, 2024 meeting.
okay, have a motion to accept the minutes. Do I have a second? I will second that since Mr. Waters was not in attendance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. And we're going to move on to item 4. That is citizen comments. I have 2 people signed up to speak tonight. Our first speaker is Larissa Moore. And if you would give your name and address and just speak so we can see you on TV.
Yes, my name is Larissa Moore. My address is 107 McBratney. It was brought to my attention that I was being discussed in the general committee meeting regarding the letter that I've talked about at the BOMA meetings. So I am here tonight to clarify my request for the letter process to be changed. My complaint is not the letter that I received. My complaint is the process with the letter. The letter gets sent after Tim Nicholson receives a phone call. The letter gets sent and nothing happens. There was no citation. I did not break a code. That was mentioned in the last meeting that I broke a code. I did not break a code. I did not receive a citation. Then you receive letter number 2, which threatens you again, and nothing happens. Then you receive a 3rd letter, which you finally receive a citation. There's no investigation. There's no questions. Nobody contacted me about the letter I received to ask what was going on. They didn't ask what was complained about. I heard nothing till I got the letter. So I've been talking about this to the board since October 27th of 2023. I've been asking for the letter process to be changed. Tim Nicholson is the only man in the city of Hendersonville that takes these calls. He admitted he cannot keep up with the amount of calls that he gets, and he does his best. But he sends a letter to each and every single call. So that is my complaint that I've been talking to BOMA about, and now I'm here tonight. Mayor Jamie Clary said that he was gonna send it to the general committee. It was sent to the general committee, but it was being discussed under other business, which does not have my name on it, nor the letter process. I didn't know it was being discussed. Until I got told that January 9th, my actual name was brought up in this meeting. So I'm here tonight to let you know I did not break a code. I am here to get the letter process in this city changed. It's not fair. It's not right. I respect all the codes. I respect all the ordinances. I abide by every single one of them, as I have for going on 8 years now. What I'm asking for is this letter to be looked at and the process to be changed. When you call, it's not a fact. Everything, I have the letter right here, if you want to see it and read it. Because everybody's names are on the bottom of it and you don't know what was sent to me. This was the accusation I received in this letter, if you want to see it. I didn't break a code, there was no business. I opened a shed with free clothes in it, as I've said in BOMA, and families were allowed to come and take whatever they wanted out of that shed. There was no business, there is no business, there's never been a business. But this is what I'm asking for to change, because this letter was taken as fact. It was sent to my landlord, and we lost our home, so I had to move. So that's what I'm asking to be changed, is the letter process. It needs change. It needs to be updated.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask her a question?
Yes.
Can someone make copies of this letter while we're here, so general committee can get them? Get that letter, if you don't mind. Thank you, Scotty.
Thanks, Chief.
Also, your comments is in regard to that letter, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm in the dark, so
It's okay.
you're saying the letter is wrong?
Yes,
It's misleading?
yes.
Okay.
I think it's not so much the letter, it's the process. Is that correct?
Everything in the letter was false,
Okay.
and that's my problem. Is
All
when
right.
you send a letter, the facts need to be checked somehow.
Okay, thank you. We're going to put you on the agenda for next month. We are not discussing anything tonight. This is jam-packed. Thank you for coming, and we appreciate your comments. Our next speaker is Chris Taylor. Chris, please give your name and address.
Yes, sir. Chris Taylor, 115 Trout Valley Drive, Hendersonville, Tennessee, 37975. A little bit real quick background. Obviously, the project y'all are about to hear about, the only reason I want to say is, one, as a citizen of Sumner County, but then also representing Forward Sumner. I've done some work with the Resource Authority for years in our previous roles of commission. If you're familiar, they've got about 13 million in bonds that's getting ready. They're going to redo that facility, and in 2 years it'll be up and running. And in 2 years it'll be at full capacity. As soon as they open the doors, they're over. And I just want to say that one of the things we talked about for years with the Resource Authority was what's a long-term solution for trash in this county. Because right now it was Murfreesboro for a while. They got tired of it, so we have a contract with Smith County, if you're not familiar with the Resource Authority. That's only as good as long as Smith County wants to do it. At a certain point, when Smith County citizens say, I'm tired of people's trash coming here, they'll quit doing it. And there's no alternative. Just so you understand, Scotty. The Resource Authority is set up to process it to a degree, but it doesn't finish there. It has to still go on to somewhere else. And this project that's coming up, the little bit I've gotten to be privy to, I just can't tell you how excited I am in the forward thinking of our mayor, economic development, everybody else to say, we have a problem that we all know about. Every county has it in Tennessee. How do we address it long-term? And I don't mean long-term like 5 years or 10 years like a contract with Smith County. I mean long-term 30, 40, 50 years where our kids don't have the problem. And I just want to, one, say thank you so much for at least being willing to try and take that on. And it's a lot of different entities that they brought together. And two, I would just implore y'all, please, whatever we need to let that process go as far as we can, fact finding and everything else, to make the most well-rounded decision. But just the idea of actually being able to address something that, I mean, and it's one of those, you don't think about it because we don't want to until like it went from 2 weeks to once a week. And then the trash started to pile up. And in the summer you see flies and it's a little bitty thing like that. But just think of that magnifier. You know, we only have a solution for about 10 years as a county. Best case scenario. This takes care of that. And not just for Hendersonville, but for the county. And it's just an amazing way to address a problem that's been around forever. So that was it, just say thank you and just to ask you, please consider whatever you need. And if there's anything we can do to help foster that along, we'd be glad to. It's an amazing thing. So thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Okay. And was there any more citizen comments? I know we have standing room only. All right. We will move on to our ordinances and resolutions. Our first one is reading ordinance 2024-02, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 14, establishing impact fees for the city of Hendersonville. And Mr. Martin is sponsoring that, but he is not with us tonight. Keith, did you want to?
Yeah, I can give a quick overview and then answer any questions that the committee would have. This is moving forward a development impact fee plan and looking for BOMA to adopt that plan. This is something that's limited to residential development. Previously, if some of you remember back about 5 years ago, the city looked at development impact fees. We did a whole study and everything was moving that forward. But that did not pass. I think some of it was the complexity of we had industrial and commercial and it was kind of really complicated in the sense of what the city's commitment would have to be to all these projects that we were looking to fund and the risk that was involved from the city standpoint. And then there's been a lot of interest here in the last year to relook at development impact fees. And so what you have here before you this evening is development impact fees that's limited to residential. And this would be impact fees that would be generated at the time of a building permit for any new single family home or any multifamily home that would do that. And the approach that we're taking on this is very simple. Some of the things in the previous impact fees that were a little bit more complicated involve roads and police and fire and everything. A little bit more complicated on the funding and across the board where it's generated. This is pretty straightforward. The city's not necessarily committed to any particular project. The revenues generated by the impact fees will be the revenues that are generated to do different projects that are identified. And we're limiting this it's limited to the parks department. And so it's just parks and recreational opportunities. And so over a 10-year period, we're looking at the potential of generating a little over $30 million through this development impact fee that would go to expanding our parks facilities and looking at the incremental expansion of our parks facilities. As we have growth, of course, we have many demands on our infrastructure. But one of the demands also, even though we have a great parks department, there's an ever-growing demand for expanding our parks, improving our parks, and this would address that. Very simply put, what would happen is at the building permit for any single-family home, then a check would have to be cut at that time for $7,197 that would go into this fund. And then also for multifamily, it would be generate $4,871 for every unit. And so we don't have anything now as to what any kind of development impact fee now on any projects. And that's kind of everything kind of compact. But I can answer any specific questions. And we did have this done by Tisha Bice that did our previous study back in 2019. And and it may be in future meetings if we need them to attend, they can. But I think I could probably answer most of your questions.
Can I give you the first question?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Where does this put us compared to other cities, especially larger cities? I'm not looking to, compare to some small town, but a city the size of ours that's close to a major city like Nashville.
Yeah, this is substantial. It's a substantial amount. Other cities, like maybe we don't have a comparison here this evening, but probably Franklin has probably more robust impact fees, and it's quite a bit more than that. But it's not limited to just the parks part of it. Then as we look at this, when we look at the single family being over 7,000 and the multifamily being close to 5,000. If you wanted to reduce that, we just have to keep in mind, we have to back off our capital for our 10-year plan on our capital projects for parks, and then make that number smaller, or we have to make up the difference. So that's kind of the way this works, is if we wanted to reduce this number, we would actually have to make the amount a little bit, if we want to reduce it by, say, the single family from 7197 to 5197, then the city would be on the tab for that 2,000.
Bob, I can look into that in the next couple weeks.
Okay. I just don't want people to move in. I hate to say this. I think we have a lot of people here and people are still moving in, but
Yeah.
I hate to lose people, good quality citizens if they can just live in Goodlettsville or Gallatin and save them thousands of dollars.
Right. And this stuff, it does, just to be realistic on it, we have needs and growing needs in our community for infrastructure. This addresses that. But then also in the same vein is understanding this will make new housing more expensive. It's going to make it $7,000 more expensive.
First it is today at zero.
So this is, it's just something to weigh as we're looking at this. And then in moving this forward, it's just something that's been a discussion here for the last year, and to really, kind of see what the appetite is for BOMA and looking at this and kind of digging into it and weighing what those things are, the cost of increased cost of housing, versus the needs of our infrastructure as well.
And that fee proposed was from this study, correct?
That's correct.
And did you say Franklin is more expensive than this?
I believe overall, because they have multiple things. It's not just listed to parks, but we can get that information, and we're prepared to have that information by first reading.
And how much was this study? I think 2019, is that correct?
Yeah, in 2019, I don't have that figure. I think it was maybe 40 or 50,000.
Okay.
But this refresher that just looked at the residential, I think it was about 10,000. So
Okay.
I think we had more budgeted for that. I think we had maybe 30,000 or so budgeted in the budget for it, but
This does not include apartments.
This does include apartments.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you might think, well, why is apartments less than single family? But the reason for that is it actually statistically, based on census information, even though you might think there'd be more people in apartments per unit, but it's not. The single family homes generate more people per unit than multifamily. Those usually are a little bit smaller, and this is all driven on the projected cost of improvements and looking at projected population as well. And so that's why that number is different. You can't really, because of you can't really say, well, we want to switch that around and make the multifamily more than the other, because all of this is very sensitive on how you have to calculate it, because everything that we're doing in this study, what the study is about, and the way that it's done, and the equal protection of single family versus multifamily, is all to defend it. And so what the whole plan is to be able to defend that this has been fairly looked at, and then anybody can look at it and see, oh, that's how that was calculated. And it was fair and just.
Sounds good.
Would this come up before BOMA at the next meeting?
Yes, if the general committee passed it through,
Yeah.
then it would.
It'll be up to the sponsor, Michael.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct.
I would like to
Lee,
co-sponsor.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, can I have a question?
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt. Keith, just to be clear, the impact fee is a one-time fee, correct?
That's correct. Just paid at the time of the building permit.
Right.
Yeah.
So that begs the question, how much arable acreage do we still have left in the city of Hendersonville? And when will this be exhausted?
Yes, and we can get that. I don't have that number right here. Of course, it is dwindling down. The number the last time I looked was about 2,300 buildable lots that were already platted or approved in some manner or another. Some of those would not fall under that, but generally probably 2,000 to 3,000 that are either platted or approved or, could easily be done. But
So we're
there's,
kind of late to the game.
yeah, this is definitely something 20 years ago would have been really good, not
Absolutely.
just for the parks, but to do it across the board would have been good. But that's okay. There's still plenty of, for the next, we grew a little around $10,000 people in the 10 years between 2010 and 2020. The previous 10 years, we grew about 10,000. The next 10 years, we're going to grow about 10 or 11. And then eventually, though, it does dwindle down because we're running out of space.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
There's one thing I would like to know, which I don't think you'll know right now, but before the BOMA meeting is, what have we averaged per unit with our, I'm not sure how we label them, but our negotiated fees that we have charged? Like what has, I know you can't do that right now, but I'd like to kind of compare those dollar amounts.
Those averages would range between 2,500 to 3,500. Now, where we're at now, we're working with the city attorney, and maybe we're going to work with a third-party attorney as well to look at this. But right now, our assertion is the only things that would not be covered by this were the projects that, and they were projects that had off-site improvements that specifically had in the language of BOMA's approval that they wouldn't have to pay any future impact fee. And there were only 3 occasions that occurred, but all the rest of them, all of those things from the way we're looking at it in planning, those are not associated with the necessarily with the building permit. That's when we get the fee, but that was determined something separate from this, and it wasn't based on any of
And
those.
that money's usually gone towards some sort of infrastructure
That's correct.
improvement that's nearby
That's
where
correct.
the project is at.
Mr. Chairman, we do have several properties that don't pay anything right now. And a good example, across from Washington Place,
Millstone.
across from Washington Place, the 6 little townhouses,
Yeah.
little townhouses.
Yeah.
Oh, Shackle.
Yeah, Old Shackle. They're not paying us
Because they
anything.
were zoned for that, so we didn't have any
Right.
leverage to
Oh, my
negotiate.
day.
Got it.
So,
Thank you.
but we're gonna get, before this is all said and done, we'll get a final legal opinion on that issue about what's vested and what's covered and what's not covered.
Of the, of the 2,500 to 3,000 lots that are available for, that the impact fees would have an effect on, how many of that is single-family homes?
Yeah, the majority of that.
Okay, so
Majority would be.
So if we're running out of time or out of space, excuse me, not time, obviously I think impact fees would have some importance. What kind of average pricing are we looking at on these homes? I don't want a guy to try to build a $100,000 home and pay $7,000.
Oh, well, it would. If you were building $100,000 or $40,000 home, you'd still pay the $7,000.
My question is based on this zoning here, though. Are these? I can't tell you how big someone builds their home, but I mean,
Right.
They can't buy the property and put a mobile home on it, can they?
Well, the zoning limits
Okay.
those potential. It's hard to say. I mean, generally, any new house, regardless of the quality, is easily going to, that you're going to build in the city of Hendersonville, is easily going to be $350,000, $425,000. I mean,
So
Even if you-
$7,000 fee is not breaking the bank.
yeah, it will increase that, but it will be absorbed. I mean, the end user is really it'll be passed along to whoever's buying the house.
Because in theory, the builder pays it.
Yes.
Right.
And with our values, which are, there's a good side of it, but the downside of the significant increased values that we've had over the last several years, it's just limiting our kids and grandkids on their potential to also experience what the folks here, all of us in Hendersonville, can experience. But just kind of weighing those different things.
We discussed this, 5-6 years ago?
Yes, 5 years ago, sir.
It just fell apart.
Yeah.
But
Look what we would be today if we
Yeah.
had passed it back then.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, do we have any more questions about
I
this?
don't know, I was just curious about that.
Okay. Well,
Make a motion.
yes, please.
I make a motion. Send it on to Bowman without approval.
Okay, I have
I'll second that motion.
motion to move ordinance 2024-02, an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code Title 14, establishing impact fees for the city of Hendersonville. I have a motion from Mr. Waters and a proper second from Mr. Garza. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next item is ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance rezoning 6.59 acres located at 240 Innovation Way, east of New Shackle Island Road and south of Volunteer Drive from industrial to general commercial, and approving the Football 15 General Commercial Comprehensive Development Plan to govern the development of said property. And Mr. Martin is also sponsoring this, but he is not with us. Keith, would you like to take the lead on that?
I'll be happy to, and I'll compact it kind of quickly here. This is for the Football 5 project, and the Planning Commission did vote to change the future land use plan from Employment Center to, I believe, to Suburban Center. So the land use has changed on the property at the last week's Planning Commission meeting, and they did recommend 7-1 for approval of consideration of rezoning this property that Football 5 is asking for this project to 7-1 to rezone it from industrial to commercial plan development. And then what basically, and I think there's some representatives of the development here, but basically what the development is about a 20,000 square foot indoor facility, multi-use courts, some indoor soccer and multi-use kind of athletic uses, maybe pickleball training type things, and then with an outdoor soccer field that can be broken into multiple soccer fields. So that's kind of what it is. But I think somebody is here from the developer. That if you had no
Okay.
Before we talk.
Yeah, we sure can. Who is the representative? Do we have anybody here
anybody?
from Football 15? On paper, this
Okay.
facility
Nobody's here.
looks very impressive. And I have just a couple questions.
I do too.
Is there
Me
a
too.
Is there a traffic study done for this facility? But I know it's in an industrial section, but I just didn't want traffic to impact the
This
current.
would be something that a traffic study, like what this is the plan development. So a combined plan development. It's kind of high level look at what the development would be. But when we get to the site, if this gets approved and then they submit a site plan, then at the site plan stage, that's when our public works department would determine whether a traffic study would be required at that time. That's typical, for a project of this size. If it was
Okay.
something larger, like a large subdivision, we might get that traffic study or something quicker than the site, than other development plans. But there's not a traffic study at this particular time.
Okay.
But they'd have to meet whatever those things were, but they can park. They do meet the parking requirements.
Good, that was
for
my
it
next
at this
question.
time.
Well, that's on mine too.
And also one last thing for me on the application statement, is this a public facility or is it private? Because I'm reading something about membership.
Yeah, this would be really a private facility that different clubs and different athletic groups, could participate in. I think the idea as expressed by the applicant to the Planning Commission is they'll have probably individual trainers that would rent space inside the building and then have, 20 people that they're working with, somebody maybe about kicking
Okay.
a football, and different different sports related things. One thing I might mention is one of the things that the Planning Commission added as a condition, and they agreed to, is that because of concerns with the church next door, is that they will not have any outdoor activities before noon on Sundays.
Okay.
So that's a part of the development plan as well. Because that was a little bit of a concern.
This,
Okay, please.
this being in Ward 6, I do have some questions on it. Reading page 40, if everybody can get to the bottom of that page, on page 40. And there's no need to me to read it, but it's going to be right up against Grace Place Development. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Adjacent to it.
Yes, yes, sir. The side of it will be.
Now, is all of this the sports that's listed here? Is our Parks Department going to have any control over the activity or the regulations of what happens here?
No, not that unless there's some partnership that's put together later. But at this point, I don't believe there's any partnership at this time with the Parks Department or with any local organization.
Although they'll be in competition with our Parks Department, won't they?
I would have to let the Parks Director.
Well, I mean,
whether
just
it
common
was, but-
sense,
Yeah,
what
so-
they're gonna do with what we
Yeah.
already have.
Yeah.
It's no use. I'm glad to see that they're listing 4 indoor pickleball courts. That'll take the pressure off of us talking about that in the future. But I was just concerned about the Parks Department that we have having no influence, having no responsibility at all to it, right?
No, they wouldn't. That's correct.
Thank you.
I have serious problems, and it's going to come from the traffic study. Because like he lives on one side of the road, and I live on exactly the other for a long time. And the reality is, unless they increase the size of New Shackle Island Road, everyone that comes to visit that complex is going to put back traffic up all the way down as far as you can see. Probably even onto Gallatin Road, or obviously further down, because it doesn't come to 4 lanes until you get down to basically the New Shackle Island Market. So I also don't know as much about what 6.59 acres is, but I do know with Grace Place and Serpro there, and there's still going to be more coming, that parking, it may meet some guide of parking, but I don't know who's doing the math on that.
Within Shackle Island being a state.
That's correct.
Mayor or Keith, would they have to approach TDOT? What was his question?
They would if there were some like turn lanes and things triggered. But generally, the access for Innovation Way is already fully there. It's a fairly new road. So it
Can they
depends.
widen that section though, right through there without TDOT being involved?
Well, keep in
Well,
mind that what
it-
TDOT's going to look at is the amount of use that this facility is going to get on this piece of property versus something else on this piece of property. And so they may see that as a wash. They may see that it's not going to have a greater impact than anything else that would be there.
Good question.
And it's one thing as you're looking at like this development or any other development, like, hey, they're doing that, so shouldn't they have to widen that road way up the street? If the traffic study doesn't trigger that, then we can't make them do that. And actually, the state passed a law last year that really further crippled even getting around the edges of that, made it clear that you can't put that on development for offsite improvements that aren't triggered by the development, by
Well,
traffic study.
I'm going to add to that. If the traffic study comes back, and let's say it says, yes, we know we have to increase the size of the road. We've been around long enough to know that project doesn't begin then.
Mhm.
So they could build this utility, this entire complex here with the other coming in.
Mhm.
And it could be 2035 before they even start any improvements on New Shackle Island Road. And that's being aggressive.
Yeah.
So, I understand what this purpose is. My issue is not the development. My issue is parking, but more importantly, traffic off New Shackle Island Road. And I've been in contact with the people in the park, Public Works Department about changing the turn lane on New Shackle Island Road.
Yeah.
It's on deaf ears. If they come back and say, yeah, it's got to be increased, it's not going to happen in my lifetime, probably.
Now, if the traffic study shows that the development is triggering the need for it, then they would have to do that as a part of the development, if it does.
Even at the state level.
Yeah, even if it's a state road. So if it says something has to happen, then it has to happen to that.
It'd be similar to the situation with Costco.
Yeah.
Where the traffic study happened there, and even though they weren't on a state highway, they were gonna cause an impact on the state highway. And so Costco had to make those improvements before they could open.
And they did.
And that was on New Shackle.
There will be a traffic study, right?
That'll be up to the city engineer to determine. But, so
That's on the way I would approve it.
Me too.
And we can have a representative at the next BOMA
Yes.
meeting
yes, there should be.
for discussions to get more details.
I just don't know if it's big enough. It's 6.59 acres to do this. But I'm not that expert.
I'm an expert when it comes to traffic.
So
Do you have any more questions about this ordinance?
No, but I'm not a place that I can make a motion on.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I mention something real quick?
Yes, sir.
What I'll do is, since two of the 13 of us have said that they want to see a traffic study, what I'll do is I'll make sure that we relay to the applicant, even if our engineer does not see the need for a traffic study, that they're sort of been warned that there's 2 of the 13 that would like to see one.
Okay, that sounds good.
Well, I would make a motion to move it on the BOMA under those conditions. If they don't do a traffic study, I'm gonna have a hard time talking to my neighbors.
No kidding.
And
It's not even in my ward, but I got your back. I'm on the other side of it.
Is it like?
You know, I don't mind making a motion to send it on to BOMA
With reservation.
with reservations of what we just talked about.
Then I can second that motion.
Okay, very good. I have a motion from Mr. Waters and a proper second from Mr. Garza, and that is ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance rezoning 6.59 acres located at 240 Innovation Way. And all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Item number 3 is a resolution 2024-07, a resolution amending the job classification list and pay table.
I move that we approve that.
Okay,
I move that we
All
approve it.
Mayor, you're sponsoring that, but I think it's, basically they are condensing, adding, modifying, and removing some positions in the city. Is that correct?
I'm happy not to speak on it, or I'll turn it over to Jesse, either one.
Okay.
This is the only option.
Which one wants to get shot at right quick?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at the fiscal impact. I added these up. I think it's 84,669. Does that sound correct? Additional payroll that these positions will require.
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons we're proposing these is, when you look on page 54, 3 of the positions there are labeled project manager. And when we recently recruited this position, we had an applicant who was very well qualified and would only come in at the very top end of the salary scale. And so we just couldn't offer that. So this makes the job a little more attractive. The GIS coordinator and the law enforcement IT specialist are moving to market. And then the parks heavy equipment mechanic is if the person who's there gets an additional certification, then there's an opportunity for them to get into a higher pay grade. So it's really to keep some of the staff, be able to recruit staff. We just can't bring anyone in for the project manager. The pay is too low. So we're trying to adjust to what the market is needing for these job descriptions.
I understand.
If I can add one thing, on the project manager, it's only 1 vacancy. So while we list 3 openings, that is dependent upon the level that the applicant who comes to us. So that top level would be for an engineer,
Okay.
right? If we have an engineer who could do the job, we will obviously want to pay them engineering wages versus somebody else who maybe has done construction but is not an engineer.
Okay, so that 84,000 that I came up with, that's for a total of 6 positions for the year, is that correct?
Right, no, that, because 3 of those is one position.
Oh, okay,
So again, it's, the project manager is based on how we can hire.
I see.
It's not gonna, we won't hire all 3.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any more questions on this resolution?
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Waters
Second from,
and a second from Mr. Garza. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. We are on item number 4, resolution 2024-08, a resolution to consider pursuing the establishment of a solid waste transfer and reclamation facility to be located on South Center Point Road. And I am, myself and Alderman Goodwin are sponsors of this. However, I think Jay or Jesse, did either one of you want to speak on this to let everybody know what this project is?
Sure, I will actually pass it off to the planning expert, so I'll let Keith or Jay talk about it if
Okay.
they'd like to.
Perfect.
And I will, I'll pass it off to Jay, but I'll jump in there.
Y'all are worse than I am.
Yeah,
You don't want to lead in?
I can. No, you go ahead. You go
Okay.
ahead.
So yeah, this is the reclamation facility and located at the very end of South Center Point Road. We are looking, well, the applicant team is here, but what we've been looking at citywide is a trash issue that's been discussed numerous times. We've been looking for some creative alternative solutions to address that issue. This is one option that I've been working with their team to negotiate some terms of agreement. Our additional city staff has been working for some time to try to get an agreement that is mutually beneficial, that addresses as many of the concerns that the city has, while self-mitigating some of those potential impacts as part of the project description. So much of the discussion over the last several months has been really identifying those potential issue areas, coming to mutually agreeable terms to address those. And tonight is really the first public opportunity to bring this project forward for open discussion. We've got draft terms of that agreement are included in the staff report. The staff report speaks to some of those issues that have been discussed as well. But I'll let the applicant's team, which are the users in the agreement, speak to any specifics. But again, this is one of those options to hopefully address that growing concern around trash, using alternative energy, creating an alternative energy source, using alternative transportation means. So really checking a lot of boxes, potentially checking a lot of boxes. So.
okay. Should I start?
Yes.
Go ahead. Thank you. So originally, when this was first kind of brought to my attention, I was very fortunate to go to Lexnor or Enexor and look at their facility and the fact that they're turning trash into energy. Are they still part of this project?
Absolutely.
Okay. But they weren't for a while, correct?
No, they had been a number that were always a part of the project. What was questionable in the middle of some of the discussions was how much of a role they were going to be on site with the manufacturing of those pellets. There was some discussion that maybe the repurpose, who owns the landfill, may be doing that. But Enexor came and let us know that they would be taking that role because there are specifications for like moisture content, a quality control issue where they actually had to be on site overseeing that at the facility. So they were never, it was a miscommunication where if there was discussion that they were not a part of the project at any point.
Okay. I just don't want it to become a waste transfer facility without any other purpose in life. And the other question I have is, let's just say this starts going through and I actually have friends who own property right there, what we're talking about, Center Point Road. And they have concerns. And here's the question, and it doesn't need a direct answer, but it can be a rounded number. How many trash trucks are we talking today coming into this facility?
The agreement specifies in the beginning that it would be throttled at 168 trucks, commercial trucks going in and out. The potential for it to go above that, I believe there's a number of up to 300. Those were initial numbers that were discussed. That 168 got them the amount of trash coming into the facility where they believe that they could make it a profitable. That is the break even from the numbers that they were running.
Okay, so, and I like this recycling thing. I've been a fan of recycling for a long time, or in this case, producing energy, but let's just argue that somewhere between 160 and 350 or 300 number of trash trucks coming into the city. This is a daily number, correct?
Monday through Friday.
Close enough. That's gonna be hard to explain to a lot of our citizens, and there's not even residential down there currently. But for me right now, and again, I don't want to get into the traffic study thing, but 300 trash trucks a day is gonna look like yellow cabs in New York. You can't miss them. So is that who Hendersonville wants to be? I'm just asking the question. You don't need an answer to that one. So that's why I am right now on this thought process with the reservation of, I like the fact that we could turn trash into energy. I think that's fantastic. And that's revolutionary. I just don't want it to be a trash transfer station.
Excuse me, can
Yeah, Alderman Goodwin, did you have a follow-up with that?
I have a question on that. Can you tell me what percentage of the trash that you would take in that a Nexor would turn in, any of y'all, that a Nexor would turn into the pellets, whether it be 10% of the trash, 20%, 60%? Can you guarantee us that a Nexor will be turning that into energy?
That is dependent upon the number of systems we deploy. So I can't give you a percentage out of hand today, but
Could you give us that percentage before it proceeds to through the process, or no?
Like in 2 weeks.
I mean, I can make an estimate, of course, but our aim is to take as much of it as we possibly can. And so that's our role in this, is to continue to deploy units throughout the area. And this particular location will serve all of those units throughout Middle Tennessee. Each unit requires about 3 tons a day of fuel to operate. So, if I get 100 units deployed, that's 300 tons a day that I would be able to get out. But the other portion of this too is we're taking that waste and looking for its next best and highest value use. That may be recycling, right? So we don't want to pull from that. We want to make sure that we're taking that material to the next best place through alternate means of transportation. Additionally, there's another entity involved that would be participating in converting that waste into fuel as well, not just us. So they're not located on site, but we would become a provider for that. The entity would. You want to speak to potentially that idea?
Yeah, I think the idea is maybe even a little bit broader than that, where we're really trying to build a state-of-the-art, kind of eco-port, where, we are taking and repurposing, reusing, recycling to the next highest and best use, as Jamie said. We're targeting, near 65%.
So
Is what we're trying to get to.
So I guess my follow-up to that would be, so you could bring the trash in there, but we may not be making the pellets there. You may be taking that trash and taking it to another facility to do something different with it.
No, that's not entirely correct. We'll be making fuel at this facility for Nexor. But plastic in particular, they may be pulling as much plastic out and sending it to another fuel user to take as much of that plastic as they can take. Right? That's a potential opportunity as well. So
think of it as a portfolio.
So you have a portfolio of waste that's produced. It's going to be organics. It's going to be inorganics, plastics. Of your recycling that you currently recycle, about 15% of that actually is recycled. The rest just is landfilled anyways, but you feel good about it. So it's got a benefit. So what he's talking about is 100 to 300 tons a day on site turned into fuel. Of the remaining fuel, we're going to sort on site. Depends on the yield. Some days maybe better glass, maybe better aluminum, maybe better, whatever. But we're going to be sorting through the waste stream. That which has no value on site will then be bundled, baled, and sent by barge. We have some off takes already lined up for 1,500 tons a day of plastics that'll be turned into diesel to be then put back into our boats. We have off take even of just municipal waste that'll then be turned into, I can't make this up, something that's going into like Coca-Cola products up in Missouri. Apparently you can drink trash. So it's a portfolio approach of taking all these things, and so transfer station in a sense that it's going to be transferred through there, but the barge in a traditional transfer station, 80 trucks, come in, and then you probably have 30 trucks that leave that are then coming in empty, filling up, and then leaving. The barge replaces that backhaul that's currently going down the road here, getting on 65, screwing up your commutes because it's going to a landfill. A barge takes about 1,000 trucks, 15 barges takes 1,000 trucks off the road. So if we do 3 barge tows of 15 barges a month, we're taking 3,000 trucks off the road a month.
Another quick question on the barges, and I'm sorry, I'll shut up. The barges are gonna go up there. Are y'all gonna load those barges and bring them back here to Hendersonville to offload them here with something?
They will be coming in empty, being loaded out of Hendersonville. They're probably, what's going to happen is they're either going to bring coal into Gallatin to keep the lights on, and then they're going to get cleaned and moved, loaded with waste and moved out. They're going to be coming into Nashville as cement and then be cleaned and then moved out. So we currently are, so we're the largest barge company in the United States, 4,500 barges. We're going to connect Hendersonville to the inland waterway of the United States and essentially give you, 15 states of access.
So you won't be offloading them here in Hendersonville?
That's correct.
Okay. I'll be quiet so you can ask your questions. And
Okay,
if we have time, I have one more.
Good question. Good question. He's the chairman.
Can I ask one more real quick?
Yes.
How many trucks would it take to hit that 1,500 ton?
165.
So you can't hit it till you hit 165. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Go ahead.
This is one time I'm gonna have to disagree with my cohort here. That's all commercial now, that whole intersection. And I think we're building a new dealership right up the street there on Gallatin Road, maybe 100 feet, 200 feet, something like that. I don't see that, maybe I misunderstood you. You had some friends that had
Business properties.
business, they're concerned.
Mhm.
Well, I think for them to be concerned, they ought to be glad that something like this is coming to Hendersonville. I mean, it's something I can appreciate what you're saying. And if it was in a residential area, I would certainly be on your side 100%.
Of course, that's easy.
But being in commercial area already, I'd have to go for it. I'd have to prove it. Thank you.
Okay.
Ask one more question?
Yes.
Mr. Bergdorf, that's your ward?
Yes.
Any input?
Yes. I have known this was coming for some time. First time I heard about Inexor, I just do not believe that the science is there to be very long-term. Just because of people I know in the industry, people that I've talked to out of California that have moved this direction. They've had recycle plans, and they've all cost more money, cost more jobs, and disrupted the environment. You're next to the river. Do you have EPA approval? You're next to the river. There are dolphins in that river that will impede the traffic from the lock, correct? You're also next to the river. When people go up and down the river for 4th of July, voters, residents, citizens, are they going to go and buy another Steiner lift in the middle of Hendersonville, at the end of Hendersonville?
So,
My
sir,
ward,
if I could
one
just-
moment, I'm not finished. My ward does not want to hear about a waste transfer station in its neighborhood. IDB has already, hired a attorney to see if this is feasible, correct? Is that right, Jay? Hired an attorney to look into the
It was
legislation for that.
it was to discuss city's options on permit paths, what would be legally defensible, but not.
Have we come in,
Yeah,
have we gotten any word back from that yet?
We have, and the agreement reflects the input from the outside attorney.
Okay. We don't know this. I mean, we don't know any of this information, correct? It hasn't been shared. I'm sorry, I don't know it. Maybe it has been shared.
This is the first time that it's been able to come before a public meeting
Okay,
for
all right.
discussion.
All right, great. So I have serious reservations about it all. And my constituents are not interested in having it. Ward 1, it affects Ward 1, it affects Ward 2, it affects Ward 3, and part of Ward 6 if the trucks come through the roads there. That's going to directly impact our roads, our infrastructure with the impact fees. It's going to directly impact everything in the city. There's risks involved in waste management. There's risks involved in recycling. There's odor, there's fire, there's toxins. I'm not interested in having that in my neighborhood unless you can tell me otherwise. This may not be the forum for all that, but I'd like to go ahead and air my concerns. Maybe we can discuss it afterward because we have a meeting here in just a minute.
I just wanted to just add a few things. So we'd go the other direction, and we operate 95% of all river traffic that goes through the lock. We're not going through the lock. We go the other direction. So we're not going to mess up.
Are you going to impede traffic in the lock?
No, sir. We wouldn't be granted the permit by the Corps of Engineers if that was the case.
Are you granted the permit?
We have had discussions with the National Base Corps. They said there is no issue from their end why this would not be granted. This would not operate unless they grant it.
Okay,
We don't build the facility if there's not a core permit issue.
makes sense. Yes, I wouldn't.
We don't make
expect you to
$50 million investment if there's not a feasible path to make the project work.
Good plan.
Yes.
Yep.
My CFO is very strict on that.
I run my household as best I can too.
Attorney Ray, you have any comments about this discussion that he's bringing up about legal fees and all that stuff?
About what fees?
Anything that he's brought up about attorney being involved and so forth?
We, the Industrial Development Board, retained a land use attorney for us, as Jay said, just to bounce questions off of, to get some clarity about how our current zoning is, and if the city were to provide a zoning and a use for this, what are the best paths for that? So we've got that information, and that's, as Jay said, that's the path that we've been looking to proceed. So that was the advisable way to do it.
Do we have any more questions on this resolution? I certainly will entertain a motion to present this to BOMA. Do I need to make the motion myself?
Make it.
Okay, motion made,
Second.
and I have a proper second from Mr. Waters. All those in favor of resolution 2024-08, a resolution to consider pursuing the establishment of a solid waste transfer and reclamation facility to be located on South Center Point Road, say aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye with reservations.
Aye. Yes. So that passes. unanimously and with a positive recommendation to BOMA. And that will be discussed at the next meeting, and I think that's the 27th.
Yeah.
So if all the representatives will be in attendance, I'm sure there will be more questions. But thank you all for being here. And just for the sake of time, Jason, are these pressing 5, 6, 7?
So 5, Jesse, that's yours. I'll defer to you on that one.
I think we can do 5 and 6 in a minute. They're
Yeah,
very simple once you have questions.
Okay,
So yeah,
I didn't know if they needed to.
6 would be pressing because it's tied to the county.
Okay,
7's time sensitive.
Yeah, that's right. 7 is as well.
okay.
Maybe.
Well, hang on.
Go ahead.
I have number 5, reading of resolution 2024-10, a resolution approving the city employee suggestion program and employee recognition program. That looks like a great resolution. Anytime we can get staff input and feedback, I think it's just, very critical for the city. Do we have any questions on that?
No, I move that we accept that resolution 2024-10.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion from Mr. Garza and a second from Mr. Waters. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Number 6, reading of resolution 2024-11, a resolution adopting the Sumner County Hazard Mitigation Plan. And the mayor is sponsoring that. And I think we passed that in August. And now we are wanting to adopt that. So I think it's just basically a customary policy.
It's formality.
Mhm.
Formality,
Mhm.
perfect. Do I have a motion to accept that resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Waters and a second from Mr. Garza. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Number 7, resolution 2024-12, a resolution amending certain fees to be collected by the planning department for various charitable and religious purposes.
So move.
I'll second that.
Okay,
I read
that
it.
is a motion for Mr. Waters and a second for Mr. Garza. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. All right, we are moving to other agenda items, and this is amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code Title II, Chapter 1, Section 2-101, relative to appointing members to various boards and commissions. And I do not,
This is just a discussion. I would argue that we can move this discussion to the next general
oh,
meeting.
that's a great idea. I have a motion to move that to the next general committee meeting, so we have time to discuss it. And I have a second from Mr. Waters. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. And number 9, other business. I think we can just wait on that one for our next meeting, unless there was anything that was pressing. Okay, well,
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion for adjournment.
Lee, I'm
And,
gonna give you a second tonight.
and I will second that myself. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight.
Thank you.